Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, Maseches CHULLIN, Perek Treifos, Daf Mem Daled. We are holding 15 lines from the top of the Amud. So we're in the Veshet, maybe one do Shchita. The Veshet, of course, is the food pipe which extends from the throat all the way down into the stomach. Which section of that Veshet is suitable for Shchita? Says the word Lamalo, Ad Kama. What's the uppermost boundary in the Veshet until which you can do Shchita? Until very near the throat. Amar Nachman Akli Tfisas Yad. Tfisas Yad is a hand grip, a handful. Rashi says 3-4 finger widths. So the last section next to the throat is unsuitable. But until that point, it's okay. Lamata Ad Kama. What about the lowest boundary? How far down can you go? Amar Nachman. Amar Rabba Baravu Ad Kadeshi Yasser, until it starts showing hair. The inner lining, the inside surface starts becoming fibrous and hairy, which is an indication that the stomach is coming up, and that's considered out of bounds for shchita. And is that so? Basically, you can shecht all the way down until this point, even though it's right near the stomach. Eini of Amar Grniva, he quotes Mishmei the Rav. No, you have to stop at the last tefach near the stomach. To stop. Past which is out of bounds for shchita. Tefach beveshet samach lekeres, the last tefach of the veshet right near the stomach. That is no longer considered veshet. Zeu keres apnim. It's called the stomach. Amai. So then, the earlier halacha which says you can shecht until the hair is seen, that's further down, much closer. Amai ki kashachet. So then, if he's going to shecht past that point, bekeres kashachet. If he's going to shecht into the last tefach, he's shechting in the stomach. How does this work? Ema. Let's modify this last statement. Not that the last tefach of the veshet is out of bounds, is considered stomach. No, tefach bekeres samach leveshet zeu keres apnimi. He didn't mean the last tefach of the veshet. He was talking about the first tefach of the keres. So the tefach in the keres which is closest to the veshet. So the first tefach of the keres, that is called zeu keres apnimi. That's called keres apnimi. But in terms of classifying the boundaries of the veshet, defining the boundaries of the actual veshet, it extends all the way down until the seyar is seen. Another way to understand this, actually there is a halacha that the last tefach of the veshet is out of bounds, but it does correspond with the seyar, or the hair rule. Why? Because in a regular, small animal, the rule is you can shecht in the veshet until the seyar is seen, and that can be very close to the keres, even within a tefach. When Rav set down the tefach boundary, that the last tefach is out of bounds, it was because he's talking about an ox who's more developed, and there's going to be hair within that last tefach. So really, the two laws jive and coincide with each other. But Torah is talking about an ox. The master Torah has lots of hair. So bottom line is, we'll still keeping with the same rule. How far down in the veshet is it kosher for shchita until the seyar develops? We spoke yesterday about the turbat haveshet. That's the resting, like ravitza, the resting place of the veshet, where the veshet starts off. It connects to the throat and then extends down. Shanit al kulei melechi. It was totally removed, disconnected, detached from the lower jaw. Kosher, the animal's okay. V'tana. In fact, this was presented tuna by our Tana in the Mishnah. Further down in the Daf Nun Daled, who says, likewise, nita lechiach tachten is kosher, even if the entire lower jaw was removed, it's okay. Apparently, we don't care if the veshet was detached from its source, which we presume is the lechiach tachten, lower jaw. That's where it comes from. Ask the Gemara, but fine, but there's a halacha called ikur, right? One of the halachas of shchita is that you can't do ikur, you can't yank out the tubes, which happens in this case. It's detached. Maskal Rav Papa, v'ikar simanim. How could you allow this animal, whose veshet has been disconnected? Isn't that ikur simanim? So basically, he's asking on Shmuel. Now, well, Rav Papa kashi masnisin. But first, how does Rav Papa understand the Mishnah, which says clearly nita lechiach tachten is kosher? I mean, lower jaw is gone. The veshet is just hanging in thin air. It's just, and the Mishnah clearly said it's okay. So what's the kasha? No, you see, Bishleim masnisin Rav Papa lekashi. I can fully understand how Rav Papa learned the Mishnah. It's a different type of detachment. The akari kuri, the ikor, which disqualifies, is talking that it's been detached completely. So the veshet is totally disconnected from the lechi and from the tissue that it's sitting on. It's totally hanging free. That makes it possible. The Mishnah is speaking the igume, that the lower jaw was sort of shaven away and removed off the skin, off the tissue, the flesh behind it, underneath it, which still remained behind, which allows the veshet to still have some sort of connection and still be grounded and framed by tissue, by flesh. Milaway simanim. The leche was removed from above the simanim, which stayed in place and framed by tissue, by flesh. El Shmuel Kashi. Kashi was specifically on Shmuel, who says that even if the vesh is totally detached, it's okay. Isn't that ikur? Like Kashi has the answer. Sorry, loitei mekuloi el emerubay. Shmuel never allowed a full detachment of the veshet. He meant if it's mostly detached, it's okay. And ikur is only if it's completely detached. Ask the Gemara, but Shmuel himself seems to say otherwise. That even this will be a problem. V'amar Rabba, Bar Brachan, Amar Shmuel, is quoting Shmuel himself, Simanim shenedaldalu. Beruban treifa, Simanim were detached, mostly disconnected, it's a treifa. And here he says it's okay. Amar Shisha, Breder Avidi. There are two versions of detachment. Ha de ikbel ikpulei. Shmuel by us, who says that the mostly detached veshet is still okay. It's speaking, it was sliced, it was cut cleanly. So it was cut 51%, and the rest, the 49%, is still intact, remained in place. So this can recover, it can reheal. Hasam de ifraki fruki. When Shmuel over there says simanim, which are mostly detached, create a problem, that's when it was yanked. The siman was yanked off the flesh, off the tissue. Right, so it got detached a little here, a little there. Altogether, the detached portion was roiv. But even the part that's still connected, it's been partially, it's been weakened. The whole thing has been weakened. So even the part that's connected, you can't really bank on it to affect the recovery, to heal the whole thing, because the whole thing has been weakened and partially severed. Okay, so bottom line is like this. The Mishnah says, Nita lechi atachten is kosher. That's a given, that's a Mishnah. What about ikor? Speaking that only the jawbone was removed, and but not the actual. It did not really affect a detachment of the veshet off the surrounding tissue. It's still framed, it's still connected. That's Rav Papa's opinion. According to Shmuel, even if it's mostly detached, but in a clean way, in a neat way, that's okay. As opposed to ifruk ifruke, even if it's partially still, hanging in there, it's considered a treifa. Next item on the list, upsukas hagargeres. So the gargeres is the trachea, the windpipe, which has been sliced, which has been severed. Roiv has been cut, it's a treifa. And Mishnah says psukas hagargeres without giving us that roiv factor. Tana, we learned in the Brisa, kama psukas hagageres. How much is considered psukas hagageres? Beruba, mostly cut. V'kama ruba. How do you account for most? What does most mean? Now we know that the gargeres, trachea, is comprised of rings of cartilage, right? Starting from the top, which is the tabas hagdoila on top, right near the throat, and then there's a chain of rings that make up the structure of the gargaris, inside which there's some tissue, some sort of membrane, which creates an inner tube. Now the rings don't really come full circle. They're like this. They come around mostly, and they're connected then by this inner tube of flesh, of tissue that really comes full circle to complete that 360 full circle tube. Now the ring on top is thicker than the sides. So when we speak about roiv, do we look at the outer dimensions? Right? So when you cut through the gargaris, slice it, do you start from the top, the outer dimensions? As long as you go down past 51%, from the outer perspective, you've passed the roiv and its puzzle. Or do you say, no, ignore the thickness of the wall? We calculate based on the inside dimension, the inner cavity. So the knife has to come down further to take you past the 50 mark line. How do you count for roiv? How do you calculate it? Rav Amar, we turn to Talmud Bavli. Roiv avya, look at the thickness. External dimensions. Some say roiv chalala, internal dimensions. There was an animal that experienced this type of injury. It was presented to Rav. Yosef, Badikla, but Roiv avya, he was sitting and he was measuring it based on the external dimensions, accounting for the actual thickness of the wall. Amrulei, Rav Kahana, Rav Asi, they turned to Rav. Tana Rabbeinu, Rabbi, you taught us, Roiv chalala. It's about the inside dimensions. So he didn't really, conclude, and he sent it to the next Rav. Shadri the Kamei sent it to the Rabbi Rav Chana. And in fact, he measured it based on the inside dimensions, and he said it's okay. And in fact, he turned around and he purchased some of the meat, just to make the point. Why not? It's kosher meat. So he purchased of this meat, but leisar 13 is stiri pshiti, a certain kind of coin, bisra of meat. So he purchased a whole package of meat of this very animal that he permitted. Asked the Gemara a couple of questions on the story. How could he even permit the animal once it was ruled as forbidden by Rav? By the time we learned in a brayso, you can't just overturn a previous ruling. Chacham shatime, the first chacham renders something tamei. The next Rav can't overturn it and make it torah. If the first Rav is asar, prohibits something, the other Rav can't permit it. The answer is shani hach. Here it's very different because Rav never really issued a final opinion. He was just contemplating. The Rav asar meisa, he didn't really forbid it. He was on the verge, but he was cut short by the Talmidim, and then he sent it further. Ask the Gemara, next question. If this animal had even a chance of being a problem, it was something that had to be discussed and analyzed and ruled on, why would Rabbi eat from it? We know from Yecheskel, remember that Yecheskel would keep away from any questionable material. The pasuk says, Yecheskel turns to Hashem. We have this whole Gemara. I didn't touch anything questionable, anything problematic. I guarded my holiness, and the Gemara explained, right? What does that mean? He kept away. I was very careful from Tumah. I would guard my thoughts during daytime. Lest it come to problems and issues at night. Next, what nevela treifa means, of course he didn't eat nevela treifa outright. It means to say he didn't even eat an animal which was precarious, in a precarious situation, on the verge of death. No, he wouldn't even touch that animal. I kept away from pigel, which means I wouldn't even touch a behemoth that had a question on it and had to be ruled on. Another point was said, I'll keep away from meat that the matanas hadn't yet been given to the kohen. So why would Rabbah engage in a behemoth which had a shaila? Says the Gemara, Hani mili milsa detali b'svara. It's only concern if the issue is something which is given to personal analysis. A svara. So it's something that you never know, right? Different perspectives, different way to look at things. So he was machmer and would not, engage in that. But here, we're talking about facts. It was just factual. Rabbi Barbachana, Agmarei Samach, he was being samach, relying on his Gemara, meaning this was a formula handed down to him by his Rebbe from way back, from Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a yes or a no. It's not something which you need to, analyze and contemplate and, So it's a fact. It's treifa only if it's cut through mostly, and it wasn't, period. Ask the Gemara the next problem. How could Rabbah turn around and purchase the meat from an animal that he permitted? Doesn't that trigger some sense of impropriety and suspicion that perhaps he ruled it to be permitted so that he can partake in it? There's a chashad. We have a whole set of rules on this. A dayan, an aide who was involved in a process, in a din Torah, should be careful to guard himself from any impression of impropriety. The Sani Danas Hadin. So there was a dayan, a judge, who conducted a din Torah between two parties disputing some sort of monetary issue. Zika, v'chiev, timeh, v'tir, asa, v'hitter, or he ruled on all kinds of things. Zika, v'chiev, he was mechayev this party to pay. V'zika, he absolved the other party. Timeh, v'tir, he ruled on the tumah, v'tahara. Asa, v'hitter, he permitted, he prohibited. V'chen edim she'idu, likewise the witnesses that were involved in this process. You have to maintain your neutrality. Don't appear like you're an interested party. So strictly speaking, in halacha you're allowed to go purchase this item that you permitted, etc. But you're not really meant to. It's not advised. Chacham instructed us to keep far away from impropriety. Even something which is reminiscent of impropriety. Far, far away. How could the Rav buy meat that he permitted? Perhaps it appears improper. That's only regarding something that's purchased. Bishuma, by estimation. So there's, room to think that perhaps he was given favorable treatment. Here, he bought a bag of meat, $2 a pound. Maskel muchach. The maskel, the weight, the scale. Cast aside any doubts, he was just buying it regular market value, regular price. Kiyod the Rabbah has a story with Rabbah Shara Trefta. He permitted a shaila on a treifa. V'zavim in a bistro, and he bought the meat. Amrlei. Bas Rav Chizda, so his wife, someone actually changed it to Rava. Rava's wife was the daughter of Rav Chizda. So his wife turned to him and says, my father would never do that. Abba Shori Bukhra. In fact, my father permitted a bukhar to a kohen. He ruled that it had a blemish and he could just eat it. But he didn't buy any of the meat. So it doesn't appear like a conflict of interest. Amrali says that's very different. Again, that's by the bukhar, where you sell it by estimation in halacha, that a bukhar, any carbon, which became unfit as a carbon and is now going to be used, privately, you can't sell it at the market. At most you can sell it, just by estimation. You can't weigh it out. So there's room to think that maybe you got a good deal, you were given preferential treatment. But here it was sold by weight. Maskel muchach. You see the fact that it was sold by weight, that there's no preferential treatment, there's no issues of favoritism. So what then is your concern? Perhaps he gave me a good cut of meat. Well, he does that every day. Every day gives me the best piece of meat. Every day, everybody sells me the best. The Rav gets the best. So that's not an issue. and therefore he had no problem buying it. What's a true, honest Talmud Chacham who's knowledgeable and is certainly a man of integrity? He rules against himself. He decides that his own animal is a treifa. Okay, so then you know he's really an honest man of integrity. Likewise, who fits the bill of Soine Matane Siyech? Pasuk says, want to live long? Refuse any gifts. Live on your own. Be independent. Have your own source of life directly from Hashem. Don't rely on others. Don't accept free gifts. So what's an example of such a man? Again, Zeroi Treifa La'atzma, a person who rules himself regarding a treifa question on his animal. Rashi says if he's willing to do that on his own money, certainly he's not going to be open to taking freebies from other people. Darash Marzutra, Mishmei Rav Chisda, Kol Misha Koire, Vishoina, person who's involved in reading Tanakh, Vishoina and Mishnayos, Reif Treifa La'atzma, and he rules against himself. Doesn't mean every time. It means to say he's known to have ruled against himself regarding treifa matters. V'shemish Talmid Chachamim, and interacts with Talmid Chachamim to gain a deeper understanding of the Mishnayos. That's what we call Gemara, right? So he's involved in good things, an honest man. He doesn't get swayed by monetary blindnesses. Allah on him the pasuk says, lucky man, he'll be satisfied with his own earnings. He's not going to be jealous and trying to get put his hands in other people's money. Lucky and lucky, great. He has a good in this world and the next. He's satisfied here and he achieves high spiritual accomplishments for Olam Haba. Because it says Ashrecha, that's why Olam Hazeh in this world. Means Olam Haba. A story regarding Soine Matane Siyech, Rabbi Lazar. He would be sent a gift from the Nasi's home. He refused it. Returned to send it back. I don't need gifts. Likewise, if they would invite him, to the banquet, he wouldn't come. Amar, he says, you don't want me to live? Like, boy, Mar, you don't want me to live? A person dislikes gifts. He lives straight from Hashem. He had longevity. Rabbi Zera, however, did it a little differently. He wouldn't accept gifts. They would send him a gift, he wouldn't take it, in line with this principle. But if they would invite him for a meal, he would go. Why? They're doing it for themselves. Amar, he says, next page, Isyakuri, it's lashon of kavod. Who do Misyakru be? They get honored by my presence. You see invitations, and he says, request the honor of your presence. Here it was literal. They were honored by his presence. The fact that Tzaddik was present at their meal. So Rashi says that's not a gift; it's a purchase, right? I get a meal, but they get the kavod, so it's not considered a matana, and therefore he allowed himself. Okay, so we spoke about the farthest boundaries within the veshet, where shechita is suitable, where shechita is allowed. We spoke about the turbas veshet, which was yanked out of its source. At what point is it a treifa? We spoke about the gargeras that have been sliced. The ruba would be a treifa. What's considered ruba? The outer dimensions, the inner dimensions. Rabba paskins the inside. In fact, he purchased from the meat, and we discussed why he did it and why there was no concern of maras ha'ayin. And we concluded with the idea of a person just relying on Hashem to sustain him without need or interest in taking from others. All the best to you and Atzlach.